Apex Legends is a game that I have a long history with. I played Apex almost religiously back in college with a group of friends. We played all the time, and I've still played off and on over the years since college. But as a Nintendo Switch fan, I can say that the Switch 1 version of Apex Legends sucked. There was just not a whole lot good to say about it. The graphics looked terrible, the frame rate wasn't what you needed, and that's a big deal in a game as competitive as Apex Legends. It just left a really bad taste in the mouths of Switch players, especially for those who only had access to Apex Legends through the Nintendo Switch 1. However, during the partner showcase, it was announced that a Switch 2 version of Apex Legends would be coming to the Switch 2 on August 5th. And that version has arrived, and I can safely say I'm re-addicted to Apex Legends. But we need to talk about this version of Apex and why it has reignited my addiction for it. Now, like I mentioned, the Switch 1 version of Apex Legends was a mess. Muddy textures, tons of pop-in, lower frame rates, and all of this leading to an awful experience for those playing the game on the system. And like I said, this sucks for people who only had access to this game through the Switch 1. So the big priority for Apex when it was announced that it was coming for the Switch 2 was the game needed to have better performance all around. A smooth experience is essential in competitive games, but especially so in a game like Apex Legends where the movement and the moment-to-moment gameplay is so fast and hectic. But I am happy to report that Respawn nailed it. They knocked this version out of the park. The game is running smooth as butter at 60 frames per second, which truthfully I was not anticipating for this version of the game. So I was over the moon when I booted it up for the first time, hopped into the training firing range, and just was taken aback by all of the performance of this game. Not to mention that the graphics are also really nice on the Switch 2 version. They're not quite as nice and high fidelity as the other platforms like the Xbox Series X or my PlayStation 5, but they still look incredibly good on the Nintendo Switch 2. And this has led to just an overall better experience with Apex. This game has become a problem again for me because while I'm supposed to be working on other videos and other games, playing other games so I can get reviews done, I'm playing Apex Legends, and I'm just having a great time doing it. I really have been struggling to stop playing Apex since it's come out on the Switch 2. Now, occasionally I've seen some visual hiccups, but I honestly can't tell if it's a game-related issue or if it's an issue related to my Wi-Fi connection at my house. So these hiccups have been rather few and far between, regardless of whether it's my Wi-Fi or the system. So it really hasn't hurt my enjoyment of the game, and I'm genuinely leaning toward it's probably my Wi-Fi and not really anything to do with the game. I can also say that Apex Legends on the Switch 2 doesn't cut any corners. And what I mean by that is a lot of games that'll get ported to the system will knock out some game modes or not have access to certain content simply because of the platform that it's on. Games specifically that did this in the past were a lot of the sports games. And Apex doesn't do this at all. Aside from the great looking visuals and the stable frame rate and performance that you get with Apex on the Switch 2, all of the game modes are playable in this version, and the game supports full crossplay. You can play the standard battle royale, you can play ranked, and you can play the new game modes that were added in this new season. Nothing is held back from you, and you can do it all while playing with anyone no matter what platform they're on. Just last night, I played like 3 hours of ranked with my buddies who I played with in college, and we played so much. Like, we had such a good time playing. They were playing on Xbox, I was playing on Switch, and it was a flawless experience. We just were playing and vibing just like we used to do, and it was awesome. It was so good to see the game running in that way on the Switch 2. And I really compare this version of Apex to that of Fortnite on the Switch 2. I've talked about Fortnite many times on the Switch 2, and Fortnite really went from a crappy but playable version on the Switch 1 to arguably one of the best ways to play the game on the Switch 2, and I feel Apex really follows that trend to a T. And the reason I feel that the Switch 2 version of Apex is possibly one of the best ways to play the game is because they really went above and beyond with giving players the ability to customize and change their controls to fit the exact style of play that they are looking for. There's the standard gamepad mode that you're used to on any other console while playing Apex Legends, and playing the game this way is perfectly fine and a solid way to play, but the other options at your disposal are the real winners in my opinion as far as this version of the game is concerned. First up is the mouse mode, and this was the first thing that I wanted to test when I booted up Apex for the first time on the Switch 2. I personally love the mouse mode in Fortnite, and I can say it works very well in Apex on Switch 2. However, I will say This wasn't my favorite way to play Apex on the Switch 2. I felt with how fast you have to put in some button inputs and move due to the high energy gameplay of Apex, the Switch 2 Joy-Cons were a bit uncomfortable to use for this specific game. I found it difficult to hit the buttons I needed to quickly enough to feel that it was worth using this particular control method. And it's weird because I do like the mouse controls in other games. Like I said, Fortnite on this system, I really prefer mouse controls for games like Fortnite, but something about Apex, this was just not gelling with me personally. However, there is a control scheme on the Switch 2 that really made me feel like an Apex legend, and that is the Gyro Controls. Now, I've talked about another game on Switch 2 that I actually prefer Gyro Controls for that supports the other control options like the gamepad and the mouse controls. That game's Cyberpunk 2077. I said in my review for Cyberpunk 2077 on Switch 2 that the game using Gyro Controls feels really enhanced. It changed my ability to fine-tune my aim and hit shots that were a little trickier, and that translates to Apex perfectly. I felt immediately that I had more control of my aim, especially when using snipers and long-range weapons, letting me feather my aim in any direction I needed to, something you simply cannot do as easily with a joystick. And the way I personally go about using this is by using my right stick while hip firing and adjusting my aim, and then when zooming in, relying on the gyro to lock in the right shot. This deeper level of control has really elevated my experience of playing Apex on the Switch 2, and it is definitely the way I would recommend people try playing the game. I just feel like I have more control over my weapon and character this way in ways I just didn't with the other control schemes. Ultimately, Apex Legends on the Switch 2 really shows off what the Switch 2 is capable of, in my opinion, especially for those bigger, more graphically intense multiplayer games. The performance and the graphics are great, and despite the textures looking slightly worse than the current gen Xbox and PlayStation, everything runs smooth, which is great because it's not hindering you in this highly competitive game. The control options give you way more ways to play than ever, letting you cater the gameplay experience to exactly what you need to be the best legend in Apex. And what this game really does more than anything is excite me for the future of the Switch 2. If Apex can run and look as good as it does on the Switch 2, there's not a reason games like Call of Duty cannot come to Switch 2 and also look and run that good, especially when you consider the fact that the new Black Ops is releasing on last gen hardware. Apex Legends really shows the power of the Switch 2 and makes me very excited for the future of the platform for games in this particular genre. Not to mention that this game is free, so there's no reason to not hop in and give this game a go if you haven't before. I personally love Apex. It's one of my favorite battle royales. It's right up there with Fortnite. I have such a great time playing it. I have such fun memories of playing it, and I highly recommend if you only have a Switch 2 and this is your only way to try Apex Legends, this is such a solid way to hop in and start playing. It's really, really well done on the Switch 2, so you guys should definitely give it a go. But that is going to be it for this video, guys. Little shorter video, little shorter review, but really just wanted to talk about the performance and how this game is working on the Switch 2 because it is definitely a huge improvement over what came before on the Switch 1 and one that I highly recommend. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments below if you are going to check out Apex Legends, or if you've already checked out Apex Legends on the Switch 2, let me know what controls you prefer to play the game with, because it is awesome that we have so many options at our disposal. So let me know all that. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe because it helps me out, helps the video out, helps the channel out immensely. But that is going to do it, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.